We're making crispy tofu and broccoli stir fry tonight. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Being someone who likes to eat some meat, I am not crazy about tofu. However, a couple of years ago when Caleb decided that he wanted to become a pescatarian, I started to look into this ingredient as a way to incorporate more protein into his diet. So I did some research and I made a couple of recipes to try to figure out how can I make this ingredient, which in my experience has always been kind of really delicious. And I found a way, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you right now. So we're going to start by opening up this box of tofu. I'm just using my knife to just cut around it. Having a little bit of trouble. Don't know why. There we go. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of liquid in it, but we're going to drain that liquid off. So I've drained that liquid off, and now I'm just pulling open the box so I can get inside it and get the tofu out. There we go. Just put the box aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tofu in half to 2 large pieces. And then I'm going to cut it into long strips, about 4 cuts. And then cut it across to make these small squares of tofu. Once that's done, you want to put it on a plate with a clean tea towel. And then we're going to fold the tea towel over the cut tofu. Press it down a bit. And then find the heaviest thing that you have in your kitchen. I'm going to be using a cast iron pan. Just lay it on top of the tofu, press it down, and to add additional weight, I'm putting some additional tins of food. And I'm going to leave it there for about 20 minutes to an hour, or for as long as you can. It's been about an hour now, and I'm taking the cans off, removing the pan, and underneath you'll see that most of the liquid has been absorbed out of the tofu into the pan, into the sheet. And now I'm just putting it aside. I did this earlier in the day, so I've put the tofu in this little container, which I'll leave in the fridge until I'm ready to cook it. So now I'm ready to prepare the tofu for the stir fry. So I've taken it out of the fridge, and I've got a plastic bag that I'm putting some corn flour in. So cornstarch or corn flour, same thing. I'm adding about a tablespoon, and then I'm putting the tofu into the bag. Just going to add a little additional corn flour. Then I'm going to close the bag up and shake it up like a shake and bake, so the corn flour is all covered over all of the tofu pieces. This is what's going to make it nice and crispy once we fry it in the pan. So moving on to the broccoli. So I like to cut off the stems and actually use them. They're really delicious, so I'll put those also in the stir fry, and then we'll cut up the remaining pieces of broccoli. You cut off the stems up to the florets, and then you get these nice little florets. It makes it easier to create the florets. Including those stems. And now the broccoli is ready. So now let's make the sauce that's going to be part of the stir fry. I'm going to start with some soy sauce. You want to add 1/4 cup to a bowl. then a 1/4 cup of water, some hoisin sauce. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons, and you can add a bit more if you like this particular flavor. An additional teaspoon would not hurt this. Now I'm going to add some rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons. Oh no, I'm almost out of rice wine vinegar. Oh, I'm out. Oh, but it's just enough. And some sesame oil, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. I'm also going to add some red chili pepper flakes, about a teaspoon, and just a little bit because it's one of my favorite things to do. And just mix that around with a fork. Ooh, one ingredient that I forgot to include is a teaspoon of corn flour. This is going to help make sure that the sauce thickens when you put it into the pan. So you just add that to the bowl, whisk it around with a fork or a whisk if you have one. And there you go, your stir fry sauce is ready. So now let's start to stir fry. I'm heating up a pan, making sure it's nice and hot before I add some oil. And right now I'm using sunflower oil, but you can use any sort of flavorless oil, that would be fine. And if you had olive oil, you can use that too. And now I'm placing the tofu one at a time into the pan. And you just want to make sure that you give them some space. So I'm adding them carefully into the pan so they can start to cook. And what you want to do is cook the tofu pieces on each side so that they brown on each side. I've added a little oil just to help it along. Now this part takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it because this is where you get that nice crispy texture to the tofu. So I'm allowing them to brown little by little on each side, turning them as I go. You can see that their color is changing once they brown a bit, which is good, and they get nice and crispy. Now that most of them are brown, I'm just kind of mixing them up a bit. So the tofu is all browned, and I'm now removing them into a plate. And there they are. We'll just set those aside while we cook the other ingredients, but you can see they're nice and crispy on the outside. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more oil, and I'm crushing up 2 cloves of garlic, I'm stirring that round a bit. Now that's a tablespoon of ginger, grated fresh ginger. Stir that round a bit before we add the broccoli. And I've steamed the broccoli in the microwave for about 2 minutes before I've put it in the pan. And this helps it to cook a little faster in the stir fry, but it's still quite crunchy. Now in go the tofu, back into the pan, mix those together, And then you add the stir fry sauce that you made earlier all over it. Every last drop. And then you mix this all together and let that cook for a minute or two until the sauce gets nice and bubbly. And the sauce also covers all of those tofu pieces as well. And voila, there you go. Crispy tofu and broccoli stir fry.